What principles ought to guide personalized supports are quite complex, really. There may be a variety of principles because there's many sides to people in which certain principles may be very relevant. For instance, you could have personalization with weak empowerment of the individual. In other words, that their role as a decision maker in their own life is quite weak. But in other ways, they have a home of their own, for instance, they have a job they like, they have many lifestyle interests, but they aren't as strong in that part of their life as a decision maker. So in this sense, the principles depend really on the dimensions of quality of the personalization. And these dimensions, I could give some of them, but they really relate to the different domains of life that people have. For instance, what is personalization in your home life? What is personalization in your relationship? What is personalization in your financial aspects of your life? What is personalization in terms of response to your health needs? What is personalization relative to your vulnerabilities and your shortcomings? What is it in terms of your spirituality? So in each of those domains, you could create principles that could guide people. And some would cut across domains. For instance, a very important principle with personalization would be, are the person's needs their normative needs as a person fundamentally met in a normative way? In other words, do they get their needs met much like other people in the community do? Why that principle is important is you could try to meet people's needs, but deprive them of the opportunities available to their fellow citizens. In other words, restrict their life options as opposed to expand them to a normative range of options. So that'd be a very important principle you could call upon in looking at different domains of people's life. But also principles are invoked really to uphold some dimension of quality. So it forces people to have to define what is quality in terms of a good life, what is quality in terms of good supports, what is quality in terms of, if you like, things like reliability, sustainability, faithfulness, and things that are also impact on people's quality of life. So in this sense, principles ought to be in place that help clarify what quality is, and then there needs to be, if you're going to have some assurance of the people living up to the principles, you need to have some way to verify that the principles were upheld in some form or fashion with some kind of integrity. Now, in my writings, I've often referred to the fact that you can disappoint people one at a time. In the old days, you pretty much had to do that in groups. So you could also neglect people one at a time. So in that sense, there is a possibility for a kind of inferior personalization or a less desirable or possibly even a damaging version of personalization because there isn't any sense of how it should be done properly. But of course, this is a complicated thing because it might be a little bit different in terms of priorities from one person to another. So in this sense, the array of principles and array of quality concerns ought to vary from one person to another. If they don't, then you're going to get something along the lines of one size fits all personalization.